In Alabama, civil rights protests had been going on for a while because workers were getting harassed and beaten, public places were still segregated, and we were denied the right to vote.
In January of 1965, the SCLC and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. were asked by the SNCC to help us gain the right to vote and to desegregate public places. One night in February, some angry white onlookers charged a group of SCLC and SNCC protesters that were marching in Marion, near our town of Selma.
One of the men in this march tried to protect his mother and ended up getting shot, which led to his death 8 days later. After this, the SNCC thought about using violence, but that went against the SCLC teachings. Malcolm X said, "It is criminal to teach a man not to defend himself when he is in the constant victim of brutal attacks."
Because some wanted to use violence and others didn't, tensions grew between the two groups, but instead of splitting, they decided to march to the state capital, Montgomery. Governor George Wallace banned marches, but we assembled anyways on March 7, 1965, at the Brown Chapel in Selma. We and about 600 other people, under the leadership of John Lewis and Hosea Williams from the SNCC, walked an estimated 60 miles.
When we arrived at the Edmund Pettus Bridge on the outskirts of the city, we walked into a wall of state troopers. They had been sent out by Wallace, and were ordered to charge into us while clouds of tear gas flooded the air as they hit us with billy clubs. This day was known as Bloody Sunday. A Democratic senator from Texas, Ralph Yarborough, once said, "Shame on you, George Wallace. This is not the American way."
Then there was a local court ruling against the march, and King assured us that we would fight for the right to proceed. On March 9th, 2,000 of us protesters gathered at Brown Chapel, and we began to march. We found state troopers again at the outskirts of Selma, and King told us to get on our knees and pray, and when we were done, he took us back to the church.
We united in an effort to protest segregation in Alabama on March 21st through March 25th. That spring, the protest was one of the last 3 marches from Selma, including more than 320 people of all races, participated in the 54-mile walk. We walked a total of 7 miles the first day, with our destination a little outside the town of Casey.
The first march that was broken up on March 7th by Selma police was extremely violent, while the second ended short and peacefully.
In the protest, we were beaten, denied the right to vote, and public places were locked to keep us out. Fortunately, in January of 1965, Martin Luther King and members of the SCLC came to protest a 1964 court decision, which banned all court decisions of 3 or more people. And we eventually disobeyed the court decision, which led to confrontation over the next several months.
District Judge Frank M. Johnson told police not to interfere with the Selma protesters, and 4 days later, President Lyndon B. Johnson mobilized 4,000 National Alabama Guard troops to protect us, while at the same time issuing an executive order to do whatever it takes to protect us. By March 22nd, we reached the town of Petronia in Lowndes County, and on March 24th, we stayed at the City of Jude, a Catholic hospital and school just outside the Montgomery city limits, and were joined by several thousand additional protesters.
On March 25th, the marchers entered Montgomery and ended the journey at the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church, where King preached, "Our bodies are tired, and our feet are somewhat sore. But today, as I stand before you and think back over that great march, I can say as Sister Pollard, a 70-year-old African-American woman who lived in the community during the bus, said, when she was asked while walking if she wanted a ride, she answered, 'No.' The people said, 'Well, aren't you tired?' And with her ungrammatical profundity, she said, 'My feet is tired, but my soul is rested.' And in a real sense this afternoon, we can say that our feet are tired, but our souls are rested."
The third and successful Selma March helped to speed the Act's passage, and on May 26th, the U.S. approved the Act by a vote of 77 to 19. The House passed it on July 9th, and on August 6th, Johnson signed it into law. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 abolished literacy tests and other methods of voter discrimination, and said that all changes in election law must be cleared through the courts or the U.S. Department. African American voter registration shot up after the passage of the Act and continued to rise in the following decades.
President Lyndon B. Johnson once said, "Their long-suffering men and women peacefully protested the denial of their rights as Americans. Many were brutally assaulted. One good man, a man of God, was killed. There is no cause for pride in what has happened in Selma."
There is no cause for self-satisfaction in the long denial of equal rights of millions of Americans, but there is cause for hope and for faith in our democracy and what is happening here tonight.
For the cries of pain and the hymns and protest of oppressed people have summoned into convocation all the majesty of this great government, the government of the greatest nation on earth. Our mission is at once the oldest and the most basic of this country: to right wrong, to do justice, to serve man.